for entertainment purposes only. And if you want true legal advice, contact your own lawyer.
Okay, Robert Durst. We've talked about this many times, and those of you, again, go to www.radiolawtalk.com when you've got some time after the show's over, and you can type in Durst, and you'll search and find the podcast or the live shows that we did over the past 3 years with this case. This has been going on a long time. Okay, the Robert Durst is the older brother, and by the way, he doesn't like his younger brother, who has taken over kind of the dynasty of the Durst real estate dynasty, is a little bit different. So in 1982, his wife disappeared, okay? He's married to Miss Durst, and her name's Kathleen Durst. Apparently, while she was en route to a medical school in New York, she just disappeared. They have never found her body. Never found her body. And so what happens is...
His wife with him wasn't Lori Vallow.
No.
Sorry. I'm crossing over here. Okay, never mind.
Don't cross over. And that's that. Remember, innocent until proven guilty. We don't think anybody's guilty, and neither is Durst at this time. So then he gets to... Then what he does is, apparently there's a lot of heat going on, right? So he gets to know this Susan Berman. Susan Berman is a close friend of his. She apparently is... the daughter of a mobster of some sort, original mobster, and then so he make a long story short, because there's so many things going on, he moves, that is Mr. Durst moves to Texas, and he moves to Texas to kind of hide out, and he dresses up as a girl and as a woman, and as he dresses up as a woman, he's in this apartment complex living, just basically. I'm not going to say low income, but lower income area. And this is a guy, don't forget, worth tens of millions of dollars that is hiding out. And this friend of his that he calls a grumpy individual in his apartment complex, and I don't remember his name. What is his name? One of you might remember his name. But this individual apparently came over one time, and they got in a little scuffle, and he said this individual, and I'll think of his name in a second, this individual brought a gun with him. And they fought over the gun, and Mr. Durst, the gun discharged and shot this guy in the temple, and he died. And this is in Texas. So they go ahead and prosecute him. This is all set up for what's going on now. Just follow through. And your job is to find the name of that guy, by the way, Todd, because I know it's in here, and I've written. In fact, I've written.
Black.
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 Mr. Black. Mr. Black. And so what happens is he goes to trial, and he's found not guilty. And then I repeat myself, he's found not guilty. Here's the bizarre thing. So Mr. Black, after he shot in the head, apparently in, quote, self-defense, because they're wrestling with the gun and it discharged and shot Mr. Black in the head, he couldn't drag his body out. So Mr. Durst said he couldn't figure out what to do, so he went to the hardware store and bought a deboning knife. Now, those of you who got the children listening, you might want to kind of set them aside or turn it down or put your headphones on. And he deboned the guy. And he, in fact, went in and discussed details of how you debone a person by cutting the joints out.
And he compared it to cutting up a chicken.
So he cuts up this individual and puts him in bags and throws him in the back of his vehicle. And by the way, apparently the jury still knew about this, but it's like just because he cut the guy up doesn't mean it wasn't self-defense. So he cut him up and he threw him in the river, and lo and behold, he thought, oh my gosh, they'll sink because it's heavy bones and stuff, and it floated.
But why wouldn't he be guilty of hindering prosecution, hiding evidence, or something like that?
I don't know.
I don't get that.
He was found not guilty of killing Mr. Black.
The jury has to decide on the theory the prosecutor chooses to present.
Oh, so they didn't put that as a secondary theory.
Mm-hmm.
And then another person dies, and we're going to get into that. And so we've got now the third death coming up is going to be this friend of his, Miss Berman. All of a sudden is shot also in the back of the head. By whom? They don't know. And at this point, he's being tried for Berman's execution or shooting in the back of the head, claiming, according to the prosecutors, that she knew something he didn't want to get out. And we'll be back and talk more about what's going on now that we've set you up.
Don't be friends with Mr. Durst. I guess that's one of the messages here. Radio Law Talk will continue in just a minute. Don't go away.
Is this real life? Oh, that's dumb.
This is Radio Law Talk. And now, back to the show.
Okay, we're talking about the Durst case. So, The Jinx is an HBO show so I've set you up as to what's going on with Robert Durst and his friend, Miss Berman, that she's known quite some time. And the prosecutor saying she knew more about, more than she, quote, should have known about what happened to his first wife, why she disappeared.
Now the issue here is, with everything that Fred has just said, the case still had gone cold. They didn't feel that they had enough to prosecute, enough to go forward on. And remember that this murder of Berman took place quite a while ago, and so they didn't have anything. And Fred just mentioned this special on HBO produced by a company called Jinx, and Durst was being interviewed. They had him mic'd up. And boy, if we haven't heard this recently in other contexts about hot mics, this one really got him, because they took a break and Mr. Durst went to the restroom. And Cal, you've got it. This is what they recorded.
There it is, your cot, he says.
He's farting.
You're right, of course.
You're right, of course.
But you can't imagine.
Arrest him, he says right there. Arrest him. So the director's cut says, I don't know what's in the house. The director's cut says that this was a clear confession by him, by his muttering, that he does in the bathroom.
And he's
You're right. This is the man.
This is him going in the bathroom.
Yeah.
There it is.
He's got his mic on.
Record.
There it is, you're caught. That's what he says. Yeah.
That's the best part.
That's the confession right there.
There it is, yeah.
And he actually says
No,
on
keep
there.
going. He says more, doesn't he?
You're right, of course.
You're right, of course.
But you can't imagine.
But you can't imagine. Just in case, I'm just... Arrested.
What's in the house?
He doesn't know what's in the house. He says, I don't know what's in the house.
This.
That's the best part. I like that part.
One more toot for the road. Oh, sorry,
another toot.
And what a disaster, he says. What a disaster. Yeah.
Oh, that's a disaster.
Well,
there we go.
The guy's busy,
Yeah, he's busy.
Do, but I was wrong. He says, I was wrong.
All right, so that is the cut. So that is what's going on, Todd. We were talking about Denise.
Yes.
Denise, I didn't mean to cut you off. You were going to say something.
Because he says, I killed them all.
Yeah.
There was another part where he says that. Well, look, this video or this audio ultimately makes its way into the investigator and prosecutor's hands.
Well, let's back this up. This audio is he's interviewing about the Jinx. The Jinx is about what happened in this case. It's alleged that all these weird things happen, and so what these people are talking to him about, what they're interviewing him about, is about all these mysterious things going on.
Yeah, the deaths surrounding him.
The deaths surrounding him. And that's why he's talking about it when he takes a break, goes to the bathroom, and they don't turn the mic off. Accidentally or not accidentally, I don't know.
So yeah, just to really quickly, as of the time this interview happens, these are the suspicious circumstances. His wife died, and they don't know how. His best friend...
his wife disappeared.
His wife disappeared. His best friend was killed...
Well, not bad. Good, a friend.
Well,
not a best friend.
was killed in what they say was an execution-style type killing, and he also stood trial for the killing of another person in Texas, and he was acquitted of that. I mean, that is like a trifecta of really concerning facts.
And Miss Berman, his friend, was executed. Yeah.
And so what the prosecution in the case now is going to allege through a friend of Berman, and I don't know how they're getting this around the hearsay rule, but apparently a friend of Berman's is going to come forward and prepared to testify that she assisted Durst in the cover-up for the disappearance or somehow with his wife. And so the thought here is that because Durst knew that Berman had that knowledge, it goes back to the best way for two people to keep a secret is if one of them's dead, and that's what he did.
Well, that's what they're arguing.
That's what they're alleging.
That's what they are going to allege.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, here's a couple other things. Durst was known for being kind of a cheapskate, even though he was very wealthy. In fact, he got arrested on a misdemeanor for shoplifting while having, $500 in his pocket and $30,000, something like that, or $20,000 sitting in his car. Yet he shoplifted a few little items. That tells you there's something wrong up there. He also was giving large amounts of money to Miss Berman, his good close friend, who was killed apparently just hours before the allegations are that she was going to go to the police and tell the police what she knew.
Or talk to them.
Yeah, at least talk to them.
She's being interviewed.
Yeah, and so I don't know why she did that and told him that. And the prosecution is also alleging it was someone that apparently she was very precautious person and almost weary of anything, wouldn't let anyone in their house, or that was her personality.
Yeah, she was a daughter of a well-renowned friend of Bugsy Siegel. So her father, she was the only daughter of that, and her father, died in 1957.
Was like a mobster of some sort.
He was a mobster involved in like New York and Las Vegas.
What was his name?
Davy the Jew. Berman.
The Jew Berman. And so Miss Berman was very, very cautious about letting people. And apparently, the evidence is that whoever it was that came in and shot her, there was no breaking and entering. He was let in, or she was let in, or whoever it is.
The evidence, no forced entry, so it appeared that they surmised, because of the lack of forced entry, that whoever came in, she knew because of this, she would not have let somebody in the house. And the other reason why they believe that it occurred inside the house, even though maybe near a doorway, is because the bullet wound, the entry was in the back of the head. And so the prosecutor is going to argue, based upon the forensic evidence, that there was a face-to-face confrontation of some sort. When she turned around, that is when the suspect, and they're alleging it's Durst, pulled out a 9mm handgun, shot her point blank in the back of the head. And the forensics, they can tell that from forensics based upon powder burns to the hair. They know the type of bullet that was used, so they know the gun that was used, and that's just.
But there's no eyewitness, no murder. But here's the key piece of evidence: there was a note. It was a cryptic letter sent to the police that's with Berman's address with the word cadaver on it. And that was and in caps that led to the police to find her. And now apparently, my understanding is they are acknowledging the defense, that Durst did pen the anonymous note. He did write that note that said cadaver and had the address.
And in one of his interviews, he also said whoever wrote that note, but this is what he claimed, he didn't write it, whoever wrote that note was probably the murderer.
Yeah, and then they're now supposedly acknowledging that he wrote that anonymous note. Let me tell you, this guy is so bizarre and off the wall that this is crazy.
Well, it's interesting because we see this play out in movies. The person who has to kill a friend to keep them quiet, but that doesn't mean that they didn't love the person, they didn't like the person, but they have to do it for whatever motivation they have. And that appears, if this all turns out to be Durst, to be maybe what's going on, because I think he genuinely liked her. He just was afraid she was going to turn him in, and self-preservation kicks in. But if he hadn't sent the note that said cadaver, given where she lived, they would have never known to go to that location to discover her. And I think the prosecution's going to argue that he felt really bad because of what he had to do, and he didn't want her to be there, decomposing and have anybody there, have nobody find her remains. So he sent the note. But you're right, Fred. The best way to describe this is There's
bizarre.
something not right upstairs there.
Well, and it shows really pictures with he and Berman together and as really good friends. But now they've just laid out their case. The prosecution laid out their opening statements. But anyway, this is going to be an interesting one. We have been following, and we're gonna follow this as time goes on.
Go to the website, radiolawtalk.com. That's radiolawtalk.com.